Funny story for you. In case you're a longtime listener, I have COVID right now. I came out with two episodes last week. One was on Friday, October 27th. The other was on Saturday, October 28th. And I was not feeling 100%. I was trying to figure out what's wrong. And then all of a sudden on Friday, my nose started running. I had instant congestion. I felt a warmth all of a sudden. I knew it wasn't a hot flash. I'm old, but I'm not that old. And I ended up having COVID. I took a test right away. It was positive. I am currently quarantined. I am recording in my primary recording space, and that is all I have to say about that. So, in case you were wondering last week why I sounded a little off, that would be the answer. All right, now into, let's see, what are we on? The 22nd episode in my drug name pronunciation series here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. This is episode 250 overall. I'm your host, Kim Newlove. I am going to just dive into this episode. I am a pharmacist by training, but I am not in clinical practice anymore. I am a voice actor and a podcast host. My specialties are medical narration and podcasting. You can find my podcast and my business online at thepharmacistvoice.com. Today, we're talking about metformin, that is also known as glucophage. If you are new to my drug name pronunciation series, welcome. In this series, I divide drug names into syllables, explain which syllables have the emphasis, and then reveal the source of my information. Then I put the written pronunciations in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com so you can see them and use them right away. The purpose of my pronunciation episodes is to provide the intended pronunciations of drug names from reliable sources so you feel more confident saying them and less frustrated learning them. Let's get started with what metformin is. Metformin is an oral medication used to control high blood sugar in patients with type 2 diabetes. I picked metformin today for two reasons. Number one is irony. Halloween was this week on Tuesday, October 31st, here in the United States. We Americans all eat way too much candy, and we probably now have high blood sugar. Haha, irony. All right, reason number two is that my friend Dr. Neera Kadakia from the University of Findlay College of Pharmacy posted a funny video on Instagram in October about mispronouncing metformin. Check the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com to find a link to that video. It's very cute. She calls it Mighty Morphin instead of metformin. Now that you know what metformin is and why I chose it, let's talk about the pronunciations of metformin and glucophage. Glucophage is the brand name, and metformin is the generic name. Metformin has three syllables. Met, as in I met Dr. Neera Kadakia at the OPA annual meeting in 2021. For, as in metformin, is used for type 2 diabetes, for, and min, like, I'll put down this candy bar in a minute. Ha ha ha. Minute. Min. All right, you put that all together and you get metformin. Emphasize the second syllable, for. Metformin. Metformin. Let's move on to the pronunciation of glucophage. Like many brand name drugs, glucophage has three syllables as well. Glucophage. Glu like glucose, co like the abbreviation for the word company, co, and phage, which rhymes with lavage. Put that all together and you get glucophage. Note that when you say glucophage quickly, the middle syllable co sounds like ka. The O becomes a schwa O sound, like the O in bottom. Glucophage. The syllable to emphasize is not indicated in the written pronunciation, but I personally stress the first and third syllables most. That would be glu and phage. Glucophage. Glucophage. There you have it. Two three-syllable drug names today, metformin and glucophage. Both written pronunciations are in the show notes. Next, I'll tell you how I knew how to say metformin and glucophage. Metformin is a generic or non-proprietary drug name. Therefore, I found it in the USP dictionary online. The USP Dictionary Online is my favorite resource for generic drug name pronunciations. There's a link to it in the show notes. Check that out. How about glucophage? The written pronunciation of glucophage was in the drug's package insert, specifically Section 17, which is titled Patient Counseling Information. In an effort to be very thorough, I also called Bristol Myers Squibb Medical Information, so that's the drug sponsor's medical information phone line, for further clarification. I have heard glucophage pronounced glucophage as well. I just wanted to double check my facts, so I called and I got my answer. Glucophage is how the drug sponsor calls it, therefore, I'm going with glucophage. Again, the spoken pronunciation is glucophage. Thank you for joining me to learn how to say metformin and glucophage. To find the show notes for this episode, go to thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab, and search for episode 250. In the show notes, you'll find the written pronunciations of metformin and glucophage, the package insert for glucophage, which is on the FDA's website, a link to the USP Dictionary Online, a link to the pronunciation guide for the dictionary, which is available at no cost on the American Medical Association's website. You'll also find my social media links and more. If you know someone who needs to learn how to say metformin or glucophage, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist's Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next Friday, November 10th. Next Friday, I'll have an interview with Rear Admiral Pam Schweitzer, PharmD. We'll be talking about Veterans Day and the PBS documentary Invisible Corps, which you can find on pbs.org. Thanks again for listening today. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you next week.